What's up, everybody? Welcome to Violent Cinema Review. I am Christian.
And I'm Goblin.
And we have a little review for you. We're going back into that Sleaze Box and we are pulling out another of their selections. And we went with American Holocaust in 2013.
So we actually decided to do American Holocaust for this very specific reason. Basically, it's the 10-year anniversary this year, American Holocaust coming out, and it was announced that they are doing American Holocaust 2. The Indiegogo campaign is up right now. And as someone who has loved this movie since it came out, it was one of my first forays in underground horror. I'm really excited to see a sequel and see what they do with it. So we decided we'd take a look back at it today and kind of reminisce and go over the things that we enjoy and maybe some things we don't enjoy, but I can't think of much. So it's directed by Chris Woods, also written by Chris Woods and John Miller, who they co-directed Make Them Die Sleazy together. And John Miller also directed Scumbags and a movie called Crack Baby Billionaire.
Which I love that fucking title.
Yeah, we have no idea what it's about, but from the 30-second clip, from the 30-second clip we saw, it looks fucking hilarious, or at least very interesting.
I'm into catchy names. So it's Bob Glazer, Jules Sierra, and Sidney Crox. All of them have been about like 50 so films, mostly through Sleaze Box, but definitely kind of a different cameos and all over the place. Kind of like same with like Joel C. Wynkoop. But I think he's done like 100 something freaking films. It's crazy how much stuff he's done.
If you've seen our Chaos AD review, you'll hear us talk about Bob Glazer. He was in that as well as Cannibal Claws, which I really love, from Sleaze Box as well.
Yeah, and all of them have been in a lot of Sean Donahue films, outside of what he's done on the Sleaze Box.
So yeah, it's basically about two Vietnam veterans who start making home movies, committing acts of depravity and misanthropy, and just basically holding a vendetta against the United States for the atrocities they felt that were committed against them in Vietnam. So yeah, to me, it's also like a deep dive into pure hatred for humanity, and also like the declining mental illness of, people who are suffering from PTSD. There are moments in the movie where they do go into like their Vietnam experiences, which to me, like the acts of depravity and violence and hatred that occur in it, like they're not as dark as just when it's them talking to the camera. So yeah, it's basically kind of a story of two veterans who are angry at the world. And it's also based loosely off of Charles Ng and Leonard Lake, two serial killers who were veterans. But it's loosely based, names are changed, the incidents are changed and stuff and what they did, but the same concept and idea.
Well, isn't there something even with him, even in talking in front of the American flag, that referenced something?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, so that's another one of the parts that's based on it. But when Michael Mashburn is talking to the camera, one of the speeches he gives, I think, is word for word, like, and it was filmed the same way where he was in front of the American flag, but a word for word video, I think, of Leonard Lake and like what he experienced and said in the video. So it is like that, but the atrocities they commit, I mean, different. But
yeah.
I didn't really know where to go.
The crimes committed were different.
Yeah, the crimes committed were different, but it's still they definitely use some inspiration from the home videos of Leonard Lake. So it's compiled footage from the home collection of Michael Mashburn. And the way that it's told is that this is from hours of footage cut down by the police. So that with the footage being edited by the cops, supposedly, it gives it a more linear and cohesive story, more than like an August Underground or Loose for Valentine, where like it's abstract or like you're kind of just following these people along, but like it really gives it much more of a linear story to it than say, like the first August Underground of it's just friends hanging out and killing people, So especially with them being Vietnam vets and giving the testimonials.
Yeah, because this is something you just kind of tell that you don't give much, like a lot of times they don't even give a backstory of like why they were recording in the first place. It's just kind of like you're just there to join the ride and then see the footage. I think it's kind of cool when they kind of give more of like a reason for everything to be happening. But yeah, it's pretty gruesome. Like there's definitely some pretty gnarly scenes, like the fucking the intestines and the making a woman like eat her own baby. It's like.
What was your kid's name? Matthew? How do you like that Matthew soup? What? No. Matthew soup tastes like that. Like, there's a lot of gross stuff in that movie, but that one just makes you feel uncomfortable because you're like, like that's her dead baby she's eating.
Yeah. You thought Serbian film was bad. Why isn't this one being talked about? There's no baby eating. They just did something else to it. There is one thing I kind of noticed in the difference in what like a typical found footage is definitely in the way that it was recorded. It seems like it's not actually, recorded on something like a VHS or something that, you would be doing a found footage film on. It just kind of has that feel of like a filter to make it seem like it's a found footage, but it still definitely feels that way. Like you don't lose it necessarily and feel like it takes you out of the element of it.
I mean, this is a found footage movie, but to me, it doesn't necessarily always feel like a found footage movie. Like there is a cohesive, like I said, cohesive story, but it feels like a manifesto and a recording of these acts. But it isn't like, oh, hey, I found this random VHS tape on the side of the road. Oh no, it's serial killers doing things. It's like something that someone would upload to a gore site where they're like police footage finally released from these horrific crimes and shit. It's these acts of depravity with the manifesto mixed in, and it's, I don't know, to me it feels much different than like your typical, like what you would think a found footage pseudo snuff movie would be.
I thought it was really refreshing in that regard. It's definitely hit that kind of classic mark, even it coming out in 2013. It's definitely had some, it's 10 years or so, but it's still among even the earlier films of in that found footage is definitely up there with them.
Yeah, I mean, I still see people talk about it and post about it to this day. I mean, when they announced that the second one's coming out, a lot of people were like, "Oh shit, I love the first one. It was one of the first movies when I got into underground horror I saw, or some shit like that." Not a lot of people talk about it as much as when it came out, but it's definitely a movie that if you're a fan of like underground gore, violence, the pseudo snuff found footage thing, you should definitely check it out because it ranks up there amongst the better ones. It's, not a sunken Danish or anything.
Yeah, I mean, and definitely the found footage got flooded. There's definitely everybody. I mean, you still see that, and everyone's trying to rip off August Underground and make like the new version of it, or feel like of it. And I feel like why, I don't know, do something different with it because like obviously if somebody's kind of like done something to its max, like just do something different. I don't know. I'm not even to its
Yeah.
max. I mean, there's obviously everything has potential of being better,
Well,
but
that's why I think this one holds up a lot better than a lot of like what came out in the market at that time, because a lot of people were like, "Oh, what's the sickest thing we can do on the camera? Or what's the most disturbing?" But they would always leave the story behind.
Mhm.
Whereas American Holocaust, like with it, these are Vietnam vets. They're angry. This is why they're doing it. Here's their thoughts and ideas. Like it adds so much more to the story than it's like, "Oh, it's two hoodlums out and about. We're gonna go, fuck with a homeless man or some shit." Which I've even talked to Fred about this. I love the August Underground trilogy, but you have to watch all three movies to get the full story. And a
Mhm.
lot of people miss that. They're just like, oh, they're gross for the sake of being gross, and that's all it is. And so that does have a story, which is why it still holds up to this day, just as American Holocaust still holds up to this day. Because I think this story is something that's, it's not the strongest point, of course, but it's a point that a lot of people forgot to make.
Makes me almost curious of like talking and doing a discussion of what would be an August Underground 4 and what would that look like.
I would rather not, because it ended perfectly. There is no
Yeah,
need for a four.
yeah, I get that. Definitely a shout out and really quick of my favorite found footage is still I love Snuff. I'll think that's always one of my favorites.
I still haven't seen it, but I know I've been needing to watch it.
Oh, you need to watch that one. It's a classic.
Uh,
It like basically starts out with a guy taking a shit, and that's like basically what you get, like on a girl's chest. That's like pretty much how the movie starts.
oh, life is cheap.
Oh no, this is even quicker than Life is Cheap. This is like first
Like
second
opening.
in, you're like opening scene butthole, like kind of
Kind of
thing.
like Thanksgiving when they're like, there's titties in five within the first 5 seconds of this movie. This one's
Yeah,
like there is a shit scene within 5 seconds.
yeah, it kind of just starts right up with it. It doesn't
Yeah,
kind of lets you know what you're dealing with immediately. And you got like tampon eating. It's great.
that's always a good time.
So I will have to say the two main guys are very convincing. You can tell they work together a lot, of where they kind of have a really good dynamic of just both being really kind of fucking twisted and playing really well, like not losing part on either of them. Like they play a part really well. Kind of makes it almost kind of hard to watch because they are kind of very convincing and you kind of it feels some of the sunset scenes kind of drag on, but I think that kind of helps because they're convincing and it drags on. It feels like you're actually watching something that you shouldn't be instead of this just quick stuff that's like obviously like done everywhere. I think because it drags, it really kind of adds to everything.
They're both crazy, but I would have to say that they're both two different types of crazy. Whereas Michael is more like a reserved crazy. Like he's more sadistic. He's doing it as a power trip. This is for Michael Mashburn. This is a power trip. He likes having this power over people. Whereas with Antoine, Bob Glazier's character, it's definitely like he gets off on being sadistic and the violence and stuff. So they're both crazy for different reasons and they're both sick, but for very like different levels, and not even in like different levels, like one sicker than the other, but just two different planes of disgusting that definitely mash well together and mix well together to create very convincing, like these are two crazy dudes who want to enact their revenge on the world and document every moment of it, so others can see it and understand the pain that they went through, which causes them to cause pain on other people.
And it sort of kind of makes you feel a little bit of like sad for them, like almost like, maybe they just hit some dementia and they just kind of forgot what they were doing and how to live in normal society. So they just decided to act violently. But maybe, maybe it's the military we have to blame to making these guys these sadistic people, and that they would have been fine if they didn't weren't put in such harsh, fucked up environments.
Yeah, there's definitely like hints and ideas planted of PTSD being a very big thing in this, of how they weren't taken care properly when they got back from the war. How, I mean, there was a lot of protest against the Vietnam War. A lot of people weren't cool with it and blamed a lot of the soldiers. So there was a lot of disdain for it. I mean, like one of my favorite movies, Dead Presidents, deals a lot with that. And then this does it on like an
Mhm.
underground level of like,
Yeah, but who
whereas
asked them to do these heinous acts? You know,
yeah,
so it's just like, don't blame the I would never blame the soldiers on the one. I mean,
yeah,
unless it's like
especially because it was a draft.
direct crime, that's obviously like something. But a lot of times it's what they request. It's
And
like,
then plus, it
well,
doesn't help when you're drafted. Like it's one thing when you sign up; it's another thing. Like with the Vietnam War, they were forced to go. You either went or you went to Canada, or you cut a toe off. So Jules is actually, I would say, more the main character in it. He's the one behind the camera most of the time, whereas Bob is more of like the secondary character who shows up, and Antoine. And so with that dynamic of Michael Mashburn, Jules being the more reserved psychopath in the sense of like the more
mhm.
sadistic, the quiet, it really adds that like when Bob is on the screen, he kind of carries the entire scene because of his craziness, is such a deflection of what you've been leading up. Because like when you have a lot of the footage between, Michael Mashburn and his wife, it's a lot more calm. Once Antoine
and
shows up,
and
shit
also
goes off the
Jules
rails.
carries the narrative. He's the
Mhm.
one that's basically like you hear him kind of doing his own narrative in the beginning and then throughout, to kind of like lead you throughout the story. So going back into how this was filmed, the lighting definitely is where you can start seeing the staple that Sleaze Box kind of has, where you have like the red, blue, green, almost something similar to like Suspiria. This definitely kind of was like the first one I feel, unless I mean I might be wrong in some of the shorts, but this is their first feature thing, and then definitely it became a staple.
Yeah, it leads a lot into like Chaos AD, and even Cannibal Claws was very vibrantly colored. So, but it works in this. It's not over the top. It's not like this is definitely someone set this scene up. It's definitely like, oh, he has a light on, and then you can kind of like have a blue glow in the background where you're like, okay, that could be like they have a sign on the wall. Like it's way more natural in this, but it still does have those like the touches of the later on how vibrant and colorful the Sleazebox movies became.
Yeah, we'll definitely be talking a lot about toxic sleazebox. You're gonna see a lot of the same labels. So sleazebox definitely has a huge catalog. But if you're gonna have like a starting point, I would definitely say like this is a very good one. So I say start with this film if you wanna, if you're interested in sleazebox or want to kind of see what Gator Blade is all about. The and definitely Chaos AD is always a good one. That's a good one. If you want to go back into another or past episode that has we did the Chaos AD review.
It's true. We did review Chaos AD. You can look back.
Shut
You'll
up.
find it. It should be there.
We'll link it maybe. I don't know. If I
Uh,
feel like it.
we'll link it down below. So, no, I really enjoy a lot of the sleazebox stuff that I've seen, like Chaos AD, this Cannibal Claws. But I mean, more than even releasing their own films, they have a lot of like the Phil Herman stuff, which I really enjoy. they have a good catalog through and through that you should check out. But if you're looking into their actual work that they've, directed and produced and released, American Holocaust is a good place to start. And with the second one coming out, there's no better time to go back and watch it or to even check it out for the first time.
Yeah, and they just started a YouTube thing. We'll link it, so you can check out. I think they did a little teaser thing, so you can see what you think, show some support. It has a link to the Indiegogo also on the YouTube. So
Oh yeah. No, it's I'm excited for it, for like the teaser and stuff. It's definitely going to make a strong comeback, I believe. So check it out. Check out the links below. And again, watch American Holocaust if you have or haven't.
and also check us out. You know, why not? And comment below. We want to hear your thoughts. We want to see what you think. We want to know how we're doing.
Yeah, join us on our Discord if you haven't yet, because there's always something going on over there.
Yeah, I might start linking the Discord in every description just to get people kind of
Definitely should. It's the best way to find out about new information, upcoming episodes, why we've been on a break for so long, and all of the new projects we have coming out soon that we will probably make an update video later on. So
yeah, and we'll do screenings of stuff and all kinds of fun shit.
lots of goodies coming soon from the QVC family.
This only growing. Yeah, thank you very much for tuning in with us, and we will see you next time.